Are you ready to untangle from your past, recover from heartbreak, and revive your life? This is Soul CPR with your host, Ann Papayoti. We've all had soul-crushing experiences and lost ourselves in our pain, but there is a way out. On this podcast, Amazon best-selling author, award-winning life coach, and advice columnist Ann Papayoti helps us navigate the path from heartbreak to healing. So now, please welcome the host of Soul CPR, Ann Papayoti.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm joined by my son and psych major intern, Chris Papayoti, and it's all about Q&A today. We're going to talk about the most common questions that I get in my practice from clients and potential clients, and we'd love to hear from you. So if you'd like to call in today, please do, and we'll take your questions as well. So, Chris, you want to kick us off with whatever you came up with to ask me about?
Right. So you became a professionally certified coach close to 10 years ago, right?
Yes. In fact, it was 2015 when I got my coaching certifications.
So a lot of people don't really know the difference between coaching and therapy. Could you maybe explain on that a little more?
Yeah. In fact, Chris, that's one of the most common questions I actually get when people first come to see me in a discovery call, or that's like a complimentary session that coaches tend to offer people who are considering coaching. And yeah, so coaching and therapy are basically both professions that help people deal with emotional discomfort of some sort, right? And both professions tend to help people set goals to be able to move forward in life. However, there are some big differences. Education is probably something that comes up for most in the beginning. And coaches, and you mentioned professionally certified for me, and I am professionally certified. However, not all coaches are. The industry is not regulated. Okay. There is a governing body known as the International Coach Federation, or ICF, that you'll see associated with many coaches in their bios and all. And that is an organization that's worldwide, and it provides sort of a gold standard for coaching, if you will. And they create ethics and standards that we're to follow and continuing education for coaches around the world. And so to be able to call yourself a professionally certified coach, you have to have gone through one of their accredited associated programs from a school, which I did through IPEC. So that is what that's all about. But anyone can call themselves a coach. So it's really up to the client or consumer, if you will, to make a decision on who they want to work with and what matters to them about the background of the person they're working with. Now, I believe much of what we do as coaches is really an innate skill, but I also value education, and I really respect the ethics and standards set up by the ICF to uphold the profession and to keep us accountable in some form. So I do appreciate that. Now, to legally practice psychotherapy, a therapist needs an advanced degree, right? And then they're going to need a license state by state. And there's a big difference because coaches have no state license requirement. Therefore, we can cross state lines. We can coach internationally. I've had clients in several countries around the world, in Europe and throughout North America and in multiple states. So there's more freedom in coaching for us, but again, less regulation. Okay. Another difference I would say is the relationship between the coach or therapist and the client. I think most people, when they think of the relationship with a therapist, there's a little bit of a hierarchy. It's almost like a doctor-patient relationship.
Right.
There's some diagnostic. You've experienced this, and I did too. So with a therapist, they're, of course, trained and licensed to be able to diagnose and treat mental illness and other conditions, while a coach is not, of course. So there is that kind of diagnostic relationship going on. With a coach, it's more of a peer-to-peer partnership, if you will. And that is how it's presented, and working in partnership to co-create the visions and achievements for the client. So coaches, by the way, do not tell people what to do. Our job is really to inspire clients by asking questions and making observations that reveal the client's inner wisdom and desires. So those are some big differences. Another difference that I would say, Chris, is really the focus of the work. So we mentioned that a therapist can diagnose and treat certain conditions and illnesses, whereas coaches do not. The other thing would be the focus for a therapist is going to be a lot of the past trauma, past experiences, and how they're affecting the present. Coaches start with the present and identify goals for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love the way a therapist friend said it to me. She said therapists focus on what happened in the past and how that is now affecting the present. Whereas coaches say what's happening in the present and how can we overcome it to achieve what you really want to achieve in the future. Okay, now as a coach, we do visit the past. We explore what's happened in the past to understand how our clients arrived, where they're at in the present moment. And then we future focus. It's very goal oriented. It's all about leveraging strengths so that we can help people then take action. And by moving forward in this way, healing actually happens, right? So people start overcoming these things and they find the past is less intertwined or entangled in their lives. And clients tell me that coaching is very empowering. So the key is really that someone has to be ready for coaching.
Okay. All right. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Now, how can someone benefit from therapy and coaching, or should they only focus on one type of help?
That's an excellent question. Actually, I've had people who do both simultaneously. They'll be in therapy for maybe a severe trauma from their past, maybe a big childhood wound, but they're in coaching as well for something specific with goals to move forward. So I guess the best way is to say it is that they are compatible and they are complementary, but it's an individual circumstance on whether someone can do them simultaneously. But I've also had people do them back to back, meaning I've partnered with therapists where they will get a client up to a certain point. They believe they're now ready for coaching, and then they'll send them to me. But I've also had that in reverse. I've had clients that started with coaching, and I find they just weren't ready. As I said in answer to your previous question, the key is the client has to be ready for coaching. So then I've had to refer them back to a therapist for a while to work on something until they're actually ready for that goal-oriented, future-focused work of coaching. Then sometimes they can come back and do it simultaneous at that point. So it really depends on the individual and the issues that they're experiencing. But I think interesting for you is to know that coaching is now one of the most requested employee benefits, and they're calling it corporate therapy. So somebody like you who is actually studying psychology and planning to go into psychotherapy, it would be a beautiful marriage of those two modalities to have under your belt for opportunities in the future. So I would encourage you to do that.
Okay, wonderful one.
Yeah.
How does someone know if they're a good fit for coaching?
How does someone know if they're a good fit for coaching? Well, I think like anything, you have to try it on to know if you're a good fit for it. And I mentioned earlier a complimentary session. Most coaches will offer a complimentary session of some duration, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I offer a half-hour discovery session is what I call it. And Basically, coaching is for someone who is functioning but feels stuck in some area of their life, and they want to feel differently. They want a different outcome than they're getting every day, and they're willing to do the work, but maybe they don't know what the work is. They don't know where to start, how to do it, and they're willing to ask for that help. So that's really who coaching's for. And for example, I had a discovery call booked this week for a young man whose girlfriend of a long term, especially for his youthful age, 2.5 years, had broken up with him, and it's already been a few months, but he still feels really, really stuck. Right? He said it's been a few months, but he felt immobilized and shut down. So he's bottom line is he's stuck in his pain, and he doesn't know how to get out and move on in a healthy way. So this is going to be grief work with him, and we'll visit the past for understanding. Like I said, is this going to be his first great loss in life? Or has there been some other loss that we can draw upon and find out what coping skills he used previously that he can apply to this loss? Or if it's his first loss, then we're going to learn some coping skills, right? So first you got to survive what you're going through. Then we're going to strive, which means now you got to do the work. There's work to be done to make positive change. You got to clear the path of what you're at. So now that's about discerning your strengths and your vulnerabilities, and learning, how can we grow confidence? And a lot of times that's learning a lot about who you are because of this experience. And then what do we need to do with that? And oftentimes I find it's about setting boundaries. And then you visualize ahead. We're going to thrive in the direction that's in alignment with goals, values, vision, purpose, and calling, and have a confident future that's going to have a scar on it, but it will no longer be an open wound. So that would be an example of the kind of work, and someone that's really a good fit for coaching. So it's anyone who wants to start kind of achieving goals, regain balance in life, attract healthy relationships, and have overall well-being.
So we've talked about what's the difference between coaching and therapy, but what is a coaching session really like? Because some people don't know what it's like. Are you laying down on a couch for like how you kind of visualize a therapist's office would be? What can somebody expect to experience?
That's a great question, because I think a lot of people really don't know what to expect. I mean, sometimes you think coaching is like we're talking action-oriented, future-focused. We're going to get on a soccer field, but we're not lying down on the couch, and we're not out on the field either, right? Mm-hmm. And most sessions are now online, though if someone's local to a coach, some of us do offer in-office visits, but most everything is done on Zoom now. It depends on the individual client and what they prefer or what they need. But no, it's just sitting in a chair. Now, if you're at home, I have people put on their sweatpants and get super cozy with their cat in their lap, but it just depends on what somebody wants. But at the end of the day, sessions are not pre-designed. So it's rather, they evolve based on our work together. So there's nothing formal ever to prepare for a first session specifically, right? But if someone comes in knowing why they're pursuing coaching at this time in their life and what they hope to get out of it, they're going to feel prepared. And that's really the two things. Why are they coming, and what do they hope to get out of it? Then you're in a good place to start coaching. And then from that day forward, it's really the client's time and their agenda, we like to say. And at the beginning of each session, we sort of set the goal for that session, and then we move toward it. And then for every session, I ask my clients just to come open, honest with themselves, with me, and willing to share, right? And that kind of helps us move forward together. There often is some in-between session homework, or I usually call it reflection exercises for people to do. It's just opportunity for insight and growth to move towards their goals, and it helps reveal what's held them back or kept them stuck. And it's a good way to help us then see how to then propel forward. So that's really what that's about. And then to be ready for life to change. And I think that's really what people are looking for. And I think that sounds pretty good. What about you? Sound good?
Sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Help people change their lives. So at the end of the day, I do like to create an atmosphere and build a rapport where people feel comfortable in examining life, because it can be a little overwhelming to think you're going to open up and share some things that are quite personal. But my goal is to build that rapport and to make people feel comfortable, and where they will do that. And I think that is probably one of my easier qualities, is to be able to do that.
All right. Now, what would you say is your coaching niche or specialty?
In conversation, I would answer that as that I am a relationship coach. And that's because I believe everything in life is a relationship. And if anybody's ever heard me give a speech, I'm going to always throw that in there, because I believe everything is a relationship. We're in relationship with our food, our time, our money, with each other, with ourselves. And so regardless of what somebody comes to me looking for coaching, whatever the topic is, it's going to come down to relationship with something or someone. So relationship is the short answer to that. And we will get more into that when we come back. It is time for our first break, so don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul CPR. We're glad you're with us today. We've got a few people watching live. We're happy to have you here, or if you're listening later, thank you for joining us. So Chris was just asking me what my coaching niche is, and I was saying that I tend to call myself a relationship coach because I believe everything in life is a relationship. And by being a relationship coach, this has led me to work with stay-at-home moms. It's led me to work with college kids, corporate executives, small business owners, teachers, and everyone with every type of role in between. So when people go to my website, my goal is for people to really see their pain point there. So I have landing pages that reflect different coaching experiences. So if people are looking for general life coaching, mindset coaching, health and wellness, or love and relationships, divorce and breakups. And I do a lot of that because I lead support groups. So naturally, I get a lot of people looking for that type of one-on-one support. And then I also have energy leadership. I have certifications in other things, specifically that and neurolinguistics programming that helps me help people on a different level. And of course, I think all coaches bring their other educational components into their practices, as well as I have health and fitness certifications, and I bring those in because at the end of the day, I take a holistic approach to my clients' well-being, to the person in front of me, regardless of the problem or the goal that they bring to the session. It's all intertwined at the end of the day. So that's why I call myself a relationship coach, Chris.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions does someone ask when they want to know about general life and mindset coaching?
Life and mindset, and really those are tied together, and that's why I put that landing page together. And it's really one of the main questions I get is, my life's out of balance, and I feel like I'm just going through the motions. How do I get my balance back? And the big one is, how did I even get here? They're like, this is where I don't even know how I got here. And something has to change, that kind of thing. Stuck in negativity. I'm living unwell, unhappy, unfulfilled. Those types of comments will come in. They've lost who they are in their roles and in their relationships. And they wonder if it's even possible to live like a purpose-driven life. So that type of thing. So short answer is, life isn't one-dimensional, and neither are we. So when one thing's off kilter, everything is. Talking about that life balance. So that's one of the benefits of working with a coach, is that you are going to gain time back and balance wherever you're looking for it, just because you're bringing it to the table and you're going to start finding that there. So it's about improving your life in wholeness and getting clarity, because, that's the beauty. A coach is like up in the press box looking down, or the coach's stand, or whatever it may be, depending on what sport analogy you want to make to with the coach. And they have a bigger perspective, and you're the one down on the field, and they watch you play your game of life, and they're like, you keep running left and you keep getting tackled. What would be different if you went this way, went to the right? You might have a clear shot to the goal line. So it's perspective that a coach can bring to you that you've lost in your life. And it's very interesting to watch this process unfold for people. And it happens pretty quick. People tend to find that they can create lasting change in as little as 8 to 12 weeks. And I think that's pretty amazing. One of the questions, Chris, I get when it comes to life and mindset is about that balanced state. Is they want to know that I can relate, for one, if I've ever had my life off balance. And of course I have. I've been stuck in a state of imbalance before. And I think that's one thing people look for in their coach is, can you relate? Have you been where I'm at? And I think that makes a coach reputable, is when they're relatable. They've had the experience. It's not just academic, when we went back to that educational piece before. But we easily do lose ourselves in our roles and relationships. So anyway, but yes, people can get back to a state of balance if they're willing to work for it. And the starting point, again, is wherever the person's at in their life. And then we determine where they want to go. And then, other people express feelings of overwhelm often when it comes to life and mindset, and stressed out, lack of self-discipline, no time for self-care, those types of things. So I'm sure some listeners can see or hear themselves in some of these expressions. And so it really is exploring what happened to unbalance someone, and then kind of doing that check of what the rebalance needs to look like in every area of their life. So, and that dedicated hour to coaching every week is a start. All right. Another thing I'd say is family obligations, and trying to balance that with work, of course, and making time for those meaningful moments. And then some people say, then they'll push back. They say, well, if I don't have time for that, how do I have time for an hour for my coaching session? And then that's really busy. And sometimes my first question would be, is what are you avoiding in your life by staying so busy? And we have to look at that. Sometimes that's one of the first places we have to do is look at how are you prioritizing your life, right?
All right.
Yeah. So then we have to figure out what matters most to someone in their life and go from there. And the next biggest question, I don't care what area of coaching it is really like, how long is it going to take me to see results? How long before my life feels more manageable? How long before I have a positive mindset? Well, that really is up to you, isn't it? So it's up to the client. But again, most clients who are really coming in dedicated to doing the work to create the positive change, it is really 8 to 12 weeks. But don't you just hear the pressure that somebody's putting on themselves already to say, how long will it take? So that's life and mindset.
Now, let's go on to talk about let's get into more relationships.
Ooh.
And about love.
Do
people come to you about love and relationships?
Now, again, that's one of the big ones. So divorce, breakup, love, and relationships, that's probably what I do the majority of, because I do work with support groups. So they may go through a support group with me for divorce or separation, then they may come back later for love. A lot of this is people feeling that they're unlucky at love, right? Is the problem me? Becomes one of the big questions that I often hear. And they feel like they're often attracting toxic relationships and can't find one that works. Why can't I find one that works? Why do I keep experiencing relationship conflict? And not just in loving relationships, but relationships maybe at work or with extended family, that type of thing. So this unlucky at love is the problem me thing. I'm really glad this question comes up because when negative patterns keep showing up in your life, then, that's a clue that the problem actually may originate with you. So it is something that we have to get curious about and see if there's a pattern in the client's life that is creating some self-sabotage. And sometimes, often when it comes to love, someone might be stuck on an ex still, or their expectations might be what keeps leading to some kind of conflict and disappointment. But whatever the problem is, the work together is actually to explore, discover, find the patterns and the belief systems, where they come from, and then work on the how to change them. And then that attracting toxic relationships or can't find the one, again, that's something I hear often. One of the most common things that happens there is people pleaser disease, I like to call it, and discovering that often someone might be a people pleaser by nature, which is, there's a beautiful underlying character trait there, but it's one that was a strength that can become a vulnerability and become manipulated. So that's usually boundary issues. So I find setting healthy boundaries is one of the biggest struggles for almost every client I meet, whether they're corporate, and I'm talking C-suite, even all the way down to, like I said, the college kids. So that's some of the biggest work I do to help somebody really, really change their lives for the better, is that boundaries work. Healthy boundaries are healthy relationships for life. And I don't care if it's parent to child, child to parent. Chris has learned how to set boundaries with me really well. Sometimes they're a little stronger than I'm used to, but but it makes me smile when I hear him set a boundary, because I recognize it for what it is and why it's healthy when it is. Other things I see with love and relationships, Chris, is a lot of magical thinking. Do you know what I mean by that?
Kind of like getting an idea of somebody and then not really kind of fitting that idea.
That's one way of magical thinking. Another way is kind of running off to that fantasy world that, whether that there's something that they're not, or that this relationship is something that it's not. And so, you know what? We got to mirror your mindset about dating, if that's what's going on, or about relationships, or about these other people. And let's just leave the magic to Disney World. Can we do that? Because that's where it belongs. Doesn't belong in your dating life and all of that. Let's leave Disney, Vegas, whatever you prefer. Let's leave the magic there. But there's no magic in finding true love. There's just not. But there is something magical that happens when we let go of fantasy and we focus on reality. And we learn how to show up true to ourselves and allowing other people to be true to themselves. So that's what I love about working with love and relationships.
Nice. Now, let's go on to the complete opposite side of love.
Ooh.
You mentioned divorce earlier.
Yes.
So let's get into that. Let's talk about divorce and breakups.
This is the pain. This is where people hurt, right? They come in really, really hurting, sad or angry, really, really caught up in a sea of emotion.
Right.
With this, as you can imagine. Some people are struggling with a decision to make. Some people are maybe separated, or they're thinking about a breakup, but they haven't made the decision, or the decision was made for them, like this young man that his girlfriend broke up with him, and they're lost. They didn't see it coming. They thought they were in a healthy relationship or a strong relationship, and then it was taken away from them. So often there's been betrayal and infidelity and different things that can blindside a person and really turn their world upside down, and everything they thought they need to be true was not. So there's a lot of pain, a lot of emotion, and it can go minute by minute, hour by hour, day to day. And it's just difficult. So ending intimate relationships, whether by choice or not, is of course quite painful. So it's a very delicate place to be. But again, I've been there. So I understand where and what these people are experiencing. And I am able to hold space for them as they share, as they emote, and as they go 2 steps forward and 3 steps back sometimes on this journey of moving through the pain and on to where they'd rather be. But healing from heartbreak and navigating this kind of thing is it's not easy. That's not going to be the 8 to 12 week journey. But you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere from these long-term relationships. So a lot of people want to know, is it normal to hurt this much? Is it normal to feel this much pain? And of course, the answer is yes. And again, how long will it take? They want to know how long before I get through this, or before I'm over it. Well, I have to tell you, here's the news. You're never going to be over it, but you will get through it. And doesn't the word through imply motion? So we have to keep moving through it, and we'll arrive somewhere else. So the pain will end eventually. Now, psychologists tell us it's an average of 2 years to heal. So you've got to allow yourself that time and that grace to arrive on the other side. It's going to involve grieving. It's going to involve forgiving, and that's the F word in my business, I know. But we're not talking about forgiving and condoning someone else's behaviors. We're talking about a lot of other very intimate work on forgiving. Those who've worked with me know what I mean by that. But it's about 2 years. But think how long you were with this person. And I'm talking probably these long, long relationships and marriages and the devastation that can be caused in your life. There's more to say on this subject, but it's time for our second break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about the divorce and breakup aspect of questions that come from clients when we come back. So don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul CPR. I'm Ann Papayotti, along with my son and intern, Chris Papayotti, and we're glad you've joined us today. During the break, I read a comment that Ron was learning a lot from today's show, and he was enjoying it, so thank you, Ron, for that. We were just talking about divorce and breakup coaching, and Chris was asking me what kind of questions people tend to ask about that aspect of coaching, and I was talking about, people ask, about healing, about how long does it take? We always hear that time will heal a broken heart, but how true is that? Well, it actually is true in that it will mend if you cooperate with time. That is what I always say to my people. You have to cooperate with time. And what does it mean to cooperate with time? Cooperating with your healing journey means to allow your wounds to heal. And how do we do that? Well, there are different ways to do that. One is to stay off of don't stalk your ex. Okay, that's one thing. Chris, yeah. I saw, you know what that means. Because if you're trying to keep up tabs on, you're gonna. It hurts to see what they're doing when you're trying to get over somebody. It's another way. Don't listen to the music you listen to with them. Don't visit the places you went to with them. There are things you can do that will help your wound to heal. There are other things you can do that is just scraping the wound over and over with sandpaper. So allowing the wound to heal, cooperating with time will help. Again, 2 years is what psychologists tell us. Listen, our stories are all different for the most part, but what I've learned in my journey and working with separation and divorce for more than 25 years is that our pain is the same. the loss of such an important partnership in our lives, especially, a marriage, and when there's been children born and all, affects us socially, emotionally, and physically. And it's something not to hide away in shame, but to reach out for support. Again, community support groups or online or private, whatever, but do reach out for help. It's nothing that you need to go through alone, ever. Again, going through our pain rather than getting stuck in it. It's a journey, but it's one worth taking. I can promise you that. Another question I get, Chris, in this one is, do I hold out for hope that I'll get back together with my ex or move on? So Chris has made his decision. I think he's answering for his own personal question.
No.
And a lot of people will ask me as a coach, can I help them decide? Well, again, I said earlier, a coach never tells anybody what to do, right? It is, but when somebody's at a crossroads in a decision like this, it's normal. And it's normal to think this and to wonder this and be curious about this after ending a relationship. But as a coach, we're going to explore, the factors that would impact your decision, including anything that may be unresolved from the relationship, right? And again, sometimes there's been neglect or unhealthy communication or infidelity. What is it? So we got to go back and explore what ended the relationship and see what's unresolved and determine what hope means to you. What does hope represent for you? What may need to be healed in order to be able to kind of continue addressing that potential outcome of getting back together, as opposed to letting go and moving forward. And then as we progress in coaching, my job as a coach is to help you then see a perspective that you may not be able to see in that moment, and to see the future with this option and with this option, and then to help guide you to seeing those options. Then it's your decision, not mine, right? Another one, Chris, that people may ask is about putting themselves out there again. That's really difficult. Yep. See, Chris has had all this experience too, that they can't see that. And then they want to know, am I destined to be alone? Yeah. Okay. Again, that's coming from a place of pain. You're still hurting if you're asking that question. So you're not healed if you are still asking that question. And I know it's very hard to imagine being out there again or finding happiness or love while your heart is still broken, but you can, and you will heal. And it is possible to love again, but you got to first come to terms with your loss. You have to find peace and forgiveness for yourself and for others, not necessarily for their actions, but for them. And what's beautiful about a dedicated healing journey is that you face and overcome fears and doubts and worries before you put yourself out there again. Before. That's the goal, because I do know others who circumvent the healing process only to go out there again too soon and end up heartbroken again, right? So circumventing the healing short, and I've done a show on rebound relationships before and stuff, because some people think the way to heal is just get out there again. It's not. It really isn't. And statistically, this is true. Okay. Statistically, it's true that premature relationships will only create more hurt and pain in your life. So I think that if you will allow yourself a healing journey, you will find that you can grow and learn from your experience. And you may just find that you fall in love with what happens in your life. So those are some of the biggest things about separation, divorce, that kind of thing. And the other thing I get, some people have tried counseling before. Maybe they tried marital counseling while they were married and that didn't work. So they're not trusting the process. So they're a little bit, distrusting that they want to know what's going to be different about coaching. So that's something I hear a lot of. So again, I say, just give it a try. If you're not sure, until you trust it. At the end of the day, the person you have to trust really is yourself, but have discovery calls with a couple of different coaches, see who you feel connected with and who you feel you can share your journey with. That'd be my best guidance on that. Divorce recovery. Yeah. I mean, it is a recovery process. It's going to take time, but I think there's different things, coaching, I think support groups, having a support network of friends who don't just say, get over it and get on with it, because that's really not, again, the right process. The people who are empathetic and compassionate around you while you take time to heal. One funny question I wrote down, because this one made me laugh out loud, was, can we just sit around and make fun of my ex? You're paying for my time, but no. I mean, the question made me laugh out loud. And most of us do sometimes feel like ex bashing from time to time. And yes, you can vent in a coaching session as you need, but that takes energy, right? And it takes away that time that could be productive to help you move forward in your life. But yes, if you need to vent every now and then, that is allowable in a coaching session. But that made me laugh when somebody asked me that question. But at the end of the day, you need to be ready again to feel differently. You need to want to feel differently, ready to move on. And what we're going to move towards is acceptance of the breakup or divorce, so that you feel peace in your life and ready for what's next and best for you. So those are the majority of the types of things that come up.
Wonderful. The last thing I have for you is, how many people really ask about their health and their overall wellness?
Well, again, I take a holistic approach, right? I told you, and because I do have some health and fitness certifications, I am going to bring this up whether they do or not. But often what happens in sessions, I'm going to ask how people are sleeping, how they're eating. I'm going to ask these questions because I need a snapshot, an overall picture of somebody's life. And so it's going to end up being part of our holistic approach, because mindset, which was the first thing you asked me about, affects everything. And so obviously mindset's affected by divorce and breakup. Obviously mindset's affected by love and relationships, right? Obviously mindset's playing into all of this, and that mind body connection is undeniable. We've talked about that in previous shows also. So it's going to come up. But as far as people coming just for health and wellness coaching, it's not that often, but I have had it happen. I have a couple of clients who came for that, but we ended up doing different work. It led to something else. So it's time for our third and final break. Don't go far. We'll come back with the health and wellness section of this discussion. See you soon.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Mike Zorich, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul CPR right here on Bold Brave TV. And it's Q&A day. And so we're talking about the questions I most often hear from clients about different aspects of coaching. And Chris just asked me about the health and wellness area of my coaching practice. And he said, do people really come to coaching for that? And I'm like, well, it's not my primary area they come to me for. The primary area is really divorce, breakup, or love and relationship. And even in love and relationship, often about that, it's about conflict, right? Conflicts in relationships within families, estrangements, and, parent, adult, child estrangements and things of that nature. So it's not always those happy times on the love page, okay, on my website. But when we get to health and wellness, again, I take a holistic approach at somebody's life, regardless of what they came to me for, because their body is affected by whatever issue they've brought to me. Their overall well-being is impacted by whatever issue they've come to coaching for. Stress is one of the greatest causes of all disease and illness. So whatever they're going through in life is creating something. So we're going to look at health and wellness regardless. But I believe in all this time of my professional coaching career, I've only had 2 people come specifically for health and well-being to answer your question. One came for weight loss. But when you start digging beneath, it really was a relationship issue with food, but that came because of a relationship issue with men. The triggers with words that were spoken in her home with her boyfriend came from words that had been spoken in childhood by her father. So it's always the thing behind the thing. And I call it an archaeological dig. I love that part. I think in another life, I would have been some kind of forensic scientist because I love getting to the thing behind the thing that really tells the story, the source of what happened. And she was able to lose weight because the weight of that, what was really weighing her down was something very different, but that caused a relationship with food that we were able to start working on and changing. And then I had another client that was in my Zumba class that asked me to become her personal trainer. And I said, I can't do that. I'm not certified as a personal trainer. I'm group fitness certified. And she said, well, then will you work with me one-on-one to teach me these dances so I can feel more comfortable? I said, well, I'd be happy to spend some time with you after class to do that. But I said, what's really going on? And then she opened up and shared with me. Ended up, she was a widow and she was struggling with her grief. And she found that her time in our class and with dance was lifting her spirits. And she wanted more time. Ultimately, with me, she thought I was the catalyst, but it was really the dance. So when we got down to it, she needed grief coaching. And so we ended up working together, coach and client, in that aspect when she found out I was a coach. And that led to all of this. Her health and wellness was the instigator that got her to what she really needed and what was really going on. And she went from wearing gray and staying on the back row to wearing bright oranges and pinks and yellows and being on the front row. And she won't mind me saying her name. The lovely Albie has now moved on with her life. She's moved to Mallorca, Spain. She is living her best life. She's happy. She's vibrant. She's healthy. And again, even for her, that weight came off because it wasn't about that. It was about something else. It was her grief. It wasn't her inability to maintain a healthy weight. It came from something very different, and for the body she loved. But when it comes to health and wellness, so again, not many people come directly for that. It becomes an indirect aspect. But when people want to feel better in their body, a lot of times they say, I don't want to hire a personal trainer or go to a gym. Can you help me feel better in my body? Well, that goes back to mindset and then some habit changes. And often, Chris, as a coach, we're going to work with people on habit changes. Okay. And I think we talked about that in some earlier episodes, right? And then we've also talked about procrastination.
Yeah.
And that's huge when it comes to health and wellness. Procrastinating when it comes to physical well-being. And it's going to be the same with emotional well-being. So find what's the underlying cause of the procrastination will be the procrastination here as well. And then finding the motivation and connecting them to their motivation for living that healthier, more mindful life, and whatever it was that keeps them feeling dragged down or overwhelmed by their day-to-day responsibilities, job, family, all of those types of things, right? And then life out of balance, going back to that first segment we did on life and mindset. Life out of balance, missing their exercise routine, eating habits have changed for whatever reason, sleeping habits, as I said. So all of this tends to go into patterns disrupted, then moods shift easily, then relationships start having conflict. People get forgetful and foggy. And sometimes it's what it boils down to. And one thing that I find are people taking on too much responsibility for other people or other things. And that gets back to what? Boundaries. Weak boundaries. So there's so much that goes into it, and it's all interconnected. And so you have to take that holistic approach, looking at someone's life all the way around, physical, emotional, mental. It's not just about feeling better in their body. There's something long before that. And then finding, again, what they enjoy doing for exercise. Again, looking at habits of eating and exercising to help them feel better. Well, that is all we have for our show today. Chris, do you have any final comments or questions?
No, I do not. Thank you for watching.
We are very grateful that you join us for Soul CPR each week or at your leisure, and keep your comments and questions coming into us. We love to know what you'd like to hear about. So as we conclude this episode of Soul CPR, Healing Out Loud, remember that healing is not a linear journey. It is a process of profound transformation. And if today's Q&A and what we shared that clients have asked before has resonated with you and you think someone else would be interested, then please share this podcast with someone else. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts. You can connect with me on my website at skyviewcoaching.com. There it is on the screen, and the QR code you can scan and go straight there. And you can get my book, The Gift of Shift, is available there. It's co-authored with another coach, my friend and colleague, Miss Tracy McDonald. So let us know your thoughts, your stories, and topics you'd like to see in future episodes. And as always, I'll put Chris to work. So until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. Thank you for listening. Breathe deeply, love openly, and live soulfully. Bye.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayotti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.